Hi, this is Steve with Thresher Media Group. Welcome to When You're Ready to Listen. This podcast is dedicated to exploring the truth about God, things you may not have understood, may not have been taught, or quite frankly, had a very hard time believing. And since our entire relationship with God rests on believing, it is important we learn how to separate the truth from the many lies and fictions that abound within the religion of Christianity. So when you're ready to listen, tune in and discover a pathway to freedom, encouragement, life, and hope. A couple of quick reminders. Thresher Media Group is a 501c3 public charity, and we rely entirely on donations from our listeners. If the Spirit leads you, I encourage you to support this ministry. It's easy to do. Just go to the website, threshermediagroup.com, and click the Donate tab in the header. I'd also encourage you to go to Amazon and pick up a copy of Liberating the Book of Revelation, Returning to the Source of the Message. This book is intended to help us all know what the Spirit said and how He said it. This book is focused not so much on interpreting the book of Revelation, that's what this podcast is for, but on accurately representing the book of Revelation in the manner in which the Spirit originally spoke it to John. It's available in all formats, hardback, paperback, ebook format, and as an audible. With that, let's turn to episode 138, Revelation 17, verse 3. Revelation 17, verses 1 through 3. Then one of the seven angels, who is now having the seven vials, came and spoke with me, now saying, "Come here. I will in the future show you the judgment of the great harlot, who now chooses to be sitting on many waters, and with whom the kings of the earth committed acts of immorality. And those who are now dwelling on the earth were caused to be made drunk with the wine of her immorality. And he carried me away in the spirit into a wilderness, and I saw a woman that chose to now be sitting on a scarlet beast, now being full of blasphemous names, now having 7 heads and 10 horns." In our last podcast, we began an exploration of Babylon the Great, the mother of harlots, and the abominations of the earth. We discovered why the Spirit used the imagery of a woman and a harlot, and how sitting on many waters, a picture of the nations of the world, the kings of the earth have become intoxicated with the harlot's drink and have formed a shared alliance within the spiritual realm. In this podcast, we are going to dive deep into the relationship between the harlot, the beast, and Satan. This will help bring a lot of imagery down to earth as we start to understand more about this woman that has infected the world with her harlotry. The relationship between the harlot, the beast, and Satan. There is one instance in the Codex, above all others, which speaks ever so powerfully to this image of the harlot. It's found in the passages which speak of Tyre and its king. Tyre represents the dangerous combination of religion, power, rule, money, and commerce. In fact, the kingdom of Tyre is a window into the kingdom of the beast, 666, and to this woman who rides the beast. The image of Tyre is even more compelling in terms of apocalyptic imagery when we realize that the king of Tyre is likened unto Satan, or more precisely, Satan is addressed through the human avatar of the king of Tyre. Beyond the metaphor, it's very likely that Satan was the motivating spirit behind this king. And when it comes to the beast, the dragon, Satan himself, is the source of the power behind his kingdom. Remember, Satan gives his power, throne, and great authority to the beast. Therefore, when the Spirit addresses the king of Tyre, we're given a layered picture of both Satan and ultimately the kingdom of the beast. Tyre. Tyre was a city on the coast of the Mediterranean, slightly north of Israel. On a map, you will find it in modern-day Lebanon. It was a huge center of maritime trade, and it was extremely wealthy due to its abundant commerce. The wealth in that city bordered on the obscene. The Codex says that Tyre built herself a fortress and piled up silver like dust and gold like the mire of the streets. That is an incredible way to speak of the wealth of the nations which were brought into this city. Tyre is also likened to a harlot who seduces the kingdoms all around the world, much like the woman who rides the beast. Isaiah 23:15 through 18. For 70 years, the length of a king's life, Tyre will be forgotten. But then the city will come back to life as in the song about the prostitute. Take a harp and walk the streets, you forgotten harlot. Make sweet melody and sing your song so you will be remembered again. Yes, after 70 years, Yahweh will revive Tyre. But she'll be no different than she was before. She will again be a prostitute to all kingdoms around the world. Then in addition to prostitution, we see that the rulers of Tyre exercise great control over the nations through the abundance of their commerce and vast amounts of wealth and their willingness to share it for political gain. Ezekiel 27, verse 1 and verse 33. Moreover, the word of Yahweh came to me saying, And you, son of man, take up a lamentation over Tyre, and say to Tyre, who dwells at the entrance to the sea, merchant of the peoples to many coastlands, thus says Yahweh God, O Tyre, you have said, I am perfect in beauty. When your wares went out from the seas, you satisfied many peoples with the abundance of your wealth, and your merchandise you enriched the kings of the earth. In this passage, it was not just the normal people who benefited from her prostitution, but so did the kings of the earth. They all committed sexual immorality with her and drank from her cup. In addition to her great commerce, she was also deeply religious. Tyre was the legendary birthplace of Europa, the moon goddess. It is from Europa that the name Europe was derived. The story goes that she was abducted and seduced. Some accounts say she was raped by Zeus, who came to her in the form of a white bull. She is pictured as a woman who rides the beast, the white bull, which once again gives us the tie into our current study. Strangely, but then again maybe not, the symbols for the European Union boldly and arrogantly draw in large part from this imagery. The coins and postage stamps bear her image. She is even pictured in sculptures outside of the EU headquarters in Brussels, as well as in front of the Winston Churchill building in the French city of Strasbourg. You simply cannot make this stuff up. It's all right in front of our faces. It's as if the EU is blatantly challenging God and his rendition of the story. I encourage you to go to the website threshermediagroup.com and download the transcript of this podcast. The images there are shocking, but it's worth seeing. Worship of the moon goddess Europa originated in Tyre. Thus, it should not surprise us that the Bible uses the King of Tyre as the image through which Yahweh conveys to us details about Satan's creation, his role in heaven, his fall, and his ultimate demise. We will get to that description, but the relationship between Satan and the King of Tyre gives us insight into the relationship between Satan and the beast and the woman who rides the beast. Ezekiel 28, 2 through 5. Son of man, say to the leader of Tyre, thus says Yahweh God, because your heart is lifted up and you have said, I am a god. I sit in the seat of gods, in the heart of the seas. Yet you are a man and not God. Although you make your heart like the heart of God, behold, you are wiser than Daniel. There is no secret that is a match for you. By your wisdom and understanding, you have acquired riches for yourself and have acquired gold and silver for your treasuries. By your great wisdom, by your trade, you have increased your riches, and your heart is lifted up because of your riches. This description of the king of Tyre and his boasts are remarkably like all that we have learned about the beast. And that should not surprise us, since we learned that the dragon gave to the beast his power, throne, and great authority. The king of Tyre foolishly exalted himself, claiming to be God simply because he had the power, the wisdom, the money, and he controlled the commerce. These are all things that the beast, under the power of Satan, will do. In fact, the beast, who possesses the man we call the Antichrist, chooses to now be opposing and chooses to now be exalting himself above all that is caused to now being called God or object of worship, so that he takes his seat in the temple of God, now displaying himself that he now is God. This disgusting personal idolatry is explained in the Codex. In Daniel chapter 11, verse 36 through 39. Then the king will do as he pleases, and he will exalt and magnify himself above every god, and will speak monstrous things about the God of gods, and he will prosper until the indignation is finished. For that which is decreed will be done. He will show no regard for the gods of his fathers, or for the desire of women, nor will he show regard for any other god, for he will magnify himself above them all. But instead, he will honor a god of fortress, a god whom his fathers did not know. He will honor him with gold, silver, costly stones, and treasures. It is fascinating that this man will honor a god whom his fathers did not know and show no regard for any other god, including the desire of women, which is an idiomatic phrase for the Messiah, as every Jewish girl dreamed of being chosen to bring forth the Messiah. It was their desire. If this man has any Jewish roots, his disregard for the gods of his father would be a key factor in understanding this text, since they, the Jews, gave themselves to practically every manner of god, even those that their own fathers, Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, did not know. The only spiritual authority the beast will honor is this God of fortresses, the one God whom the Jews did not worship. This God is none other than the dragon, who gives the beast his own throne, power, and great authority. And for this reason, the beast honors the dragon. The statement that he will honor a God of fortresses is intended to be an identifying feature connecting us back to the dragon. The link comes from deep within the Codex, where we are told that the dragon's armor, or the literal fortresses around his body, are impenetrable. His strong scales are his pride, shut up as with a tight seal. One is so near to another that no air can come between them. They're joined one to another. They clasp each other and cannot be separated. The sword that reaches him cannot avail, nor the spear, dart, or the javelin. He regards iron as straw, bronze as rotten wood. The arrow cannot make him flee. Sling stones are turned into stubble for him. Clubs are regarded as stubble. He laughs at the rattling of the javelin. It is said about him, no one is so fierce that dares to arouse him. Nothing on earth is like him, one made without fear. He looks on everything that is high or proud. He is the king over all the sons of pride. The dragon's covering is a literal fortress that protects him from everything but his master, Yahweh Sabaoth. Let's now read a passage which describes the story of Satan, the dragon, seen through the image of the King of Tyre, and we will see how it also applies to the beast. In this passage, we are given a picture of these fortresses or coverings which protect the dragon. Ezekiel 28, verse 11 through 19. Then this further message came to me from Yahweh. Son of man, sing this funeral song for the King of Tyre. Give him this message from Yahweh Adonai, the sovereign Lord. You were the model of perfection, full of wisdom and exquisite in beauty. You were in Eden, the garden of God. Your clothing was adorned with every precious stone, red carnelian, pale green peridot, white moonstone, blue-green beryl, onyx, green jasper, blue lapis lazuli, turquoise, and emerald, all beautifully crafted for you and set in the finest gold. They were given to you on the day you were created. I ordained and anointed you as the mighty angelic guardian. You had access to the holy mountain of God and walked among the stones of fire. You were blameless in all you did from the day you were created until the day evil was found in you. Your rich commerce led you to violence, and you sinned. So I banished you in disgrace from the mountain of God. I expelled you, O mighty guardian, from your place among the stones of fire. Your heart was filled with pride because of all your beauty. Your wisdom was corrupted by your love of splendor. So I threw you to the ground and exposed you to the curious gaze of kings. You defiled your sanctuaries with your many sins and your dishonest trade. So I brought fire out from within you, and it consumed you. I reduced you to ashes on the ground in the sight of all who are watching. All who know you are appalled at your fate. You have come to a terrible end, and you will exist no more. The clothing of the dragon, his fortresses of protection, are comprised of every precious stone set in gold. And because of his clothing, the sword that reaches him cannot avail, nor the spear, dart, or the javelin. He regards them as straw. Bronze is rotten wood. The arrow cannot make him flee. Slingstones are turned into stubble for him. Clubs are regarded as stubble. He laughs at the rattling of the javelin. Not only does this vision give us a glimpse of the key attributes of Satan seen through this King of Tyre, but it also gives us insight into the kingdom of the beast. It reveals what we can expect as Satan gives his power, throne, and great authority to the beast. In the summary below, the beast and the man we call the Antichrist will be used interchangeably, since that is how the beast will be experienced by those who are now making their abode in this earth. They will experience him through this man. He will come across to mankind as the model of perfection, full of wisdom and exquisite in beauty. This picture of Eden symbolizes the time when God tabernacled with mankind, with Adam and Eve. And the garden was in effect a safe haven for the children of God, except, of course, for the presence of the serpent. Similarly, just like the serpent in the garden, the beast is even now found in the safe haven of the children of God. He is found in the sanctuary of God, in the Naus, the true church of Jesus Christ, in which the Spirit of God tabernacles with his own people. As such, the man will appear to have deep fellowship with God, and he will be able to lead the syncretistic movement amongst Christendom. From the description of his clothing, we understand that the man will come from wealth and abundance, and it will fit him. It is what others will expect from such a great leader. The image of the angelic guardian who had access to the mountain of God and walked among the stones of fire tells us that he will have a prominent role within Christendom. He'll be viewed as a guardian of the faith. As far as anyone can tell, this man might be sincere in his convictions, and he will have access to the inner circles of Christianity. He might even think that he is a believer. It may not be just a show. But he will continue with this religious facade up until the day that evil is found in him, and he is possessed by the lesser demons, the hawk, and ultimately by the beast, the eagle, the demonic spirit called the destroyer, Apollyon in Greek, or destruction, Abaddon in Hebrew. Let us not forget that this man, the Antichrist, is called the son of destruction, literally the son of the destroyer. In case you would like to review the details about the hawk and the eagle, that discussion can be found in Revelation chapter 4 under the mystery, the snake, the eagle, and the man. Having a foundation of influence within the religious community, he will also garnish his power and strength through the affluence generated by his involvement in commerce and business. Once he has wealth and power, then he will turn to violence to consolidate his power and control over the peoples of the world. He will strike with the ferocity and speed of the hawk. At that time, this man will be expelled from Christendom, and rightfully so. His heart will be filled with pride because of all his beauty, wisdom, wealth, and so on. He will not need God. After all, he will claim to be God, so he will blaspheme the God of gods. He will defile the sanctuaries with his many sins and dishonest trade. He'll have no regard for the God of his ancestors. He will defile the sanctuary of God and wage his war against the faithful of God, those who are now abiding in the sanctuary of God. Therefore, God is going to wipe him out, and he will come to a terrible end and will exist no more. The Antichrist will be killed, and the beast and Satan ultimately will be thrown into the lake of fire. The image of the harlot who rides the back of a beast communicates that in his kingdom, there will be a weird blend of religion, specifically Christianity, politics, power, money, opulent wealth, abuse, corruption, and abject violence. All of these will be present in the kingdom of the beast, consistent with the meaning of the infamous 666. The wilderness, Revelation 17:3. And he carried me away in spirit into a wilderness, And I saw a woman that chose to now be sitting on a scarlet beast, now being full of blasphemous names, now having 7 heads and 10 horns. John is not just given another vision. Rather, he is moved in spirit into a wilderness. Many translations say that he was moved in the spirit, but in the Greek, no definite article is used. It is just moved in spirit. Back in Revelation 4, verse 1 through 2, John was commanded to come up to the heavenlies through a door that had previously been opened by God and was remaining open. The one who holds the key of David, which is Jesus, had opened this door, providing access before the great courtroom or the assembly of God. In response to that command, John said that he chose to be in spirit, and immediately he was in the throne room of God. His body remained there on the island of Patmos, but his spirit was transitioned to the heavenly realms, so he could see all things from a heavenly perspective. And now his spirit was carried by one of the 7 angels who had the 7 vials from the presence of God into a wilderness. According to the Codex, the wilderness is an image associated with demonic haunts, the territory in which they, the demons, naturally dwell. We addressed this previously in Revelation 12:6 when talking about Israel escaping into the wilderness, into the terrain of the demonic. This is the reason why when a demon is cast out of a person, it wanders in the wilderness, its natural habitat, until it may be permitted to return. In Deuteronomy 8:15, the wilderness is associated with fiery serpents and scorpions, which are demonic images. As such, in Luke 10:19 through 20, Jesus gives his followers the authority to tread upon serpents and scorpions and over all the power of the enemy. In so doing, Jesus made the spirits subject to his followers, even in their own territory, the demonic territory, that is. On the infamous Day of Atonement, there was a sacred ceremony of the scapegoat. In this ceremony, the high priest would take 2 goats and present them to Yahweh. One of these goats was sacrificed as a sin offering, but the second goat was presented alive before Yahweh to make atonement upon it. This was the scapegoat. The high priest would lay both of his hands on the head of the live goat and confess over it all the iniquities of the sons of Israel and all their transgressions. In so doing, he laid their sins on the head of the goat. He then sent it away into the wilderness where the goat would bear on itself all their sins to a solitary land in the wilderness. Rabbinic tradition and Jewish folklore held that the scapegoat was for Azazel, believed to be a demon, and the goat was released into the wilderness that was believed to be Azazel's haunt. In a similar manner, foreshadowing Jesus bearing in himself as our scapegoat all the sins of all the people of the whole world, Jesus went to the wilderness, to the haunt of Azazel, to be tempted by the devil for 40 days and 40 nights. This is the territory in which John now finds himself, in the wilderness, in the haunt of the demonic, the scarlet beast. And I saw a woman that chose to now be sitting on a scarlet beast, now being full of blasphemous names, now having 7 heads and 10 horns. Just to be clear, it is the beast that is now being full of blasphemous names and is now having 7 heads and 10 horns. The woman just chose to now be sitting on the beast. We previously saw the beast arising from the waters from the sea, having 10 horns and 7 heads. And on his horns were 10 diadems, royal crowns. And on his heads, those 7 heads, were blasphemous names. If you want to refresh your understanding of the horns, the heads, and the blasphemous names, see Revelation chapter 13, verse 1. The Spirit adds this description because he wants us to make sure that we know that this woman is riding upon the back of the beast, the destroyer, and not another demonic beast. In fact, the Spirit clarifies it all in chapter 17, verse 8, just to make sure we do not get confused, by saying, the beast that you saw was, and now is not, and now is about to now come up out of the abyss and now go to destruction. Clearly, this is a reference to the angel of the abyss, whose release at the blowing of the fifth trumpet is detailed in Revelation 9, verse 1 through 11. This is the demonic entity whose name in Hebrew is Abaddon, destruction. And in the Greek, he has the name Apollyon, destroyer. Why scarlet? The color scarlet brings a new dimension to the beast that we were not previously given. According to the code, scarlet is the color of blood and sacrifice. For example, scarlet is the color of the robe which they placed on Jesus after he was flogged. Simply said, this color speaks of what the beast does. He spills the blood of the saints, for he is given the authority to wage war against the chosen of God, and in effect, offer them up as a first fruits sacrifice. The scarlet is a fitting color for his name, the destroyer. His demonic power and influence has reached out from beyond the abyss, resulting in a bloody and devastating impact on this world. This is not just an end times phenomenon. When John saw the beast first arising up out of the sea, arising was rendered in the present tense, and it was a participle. The beast kingdom, the kingdom of the beast, and authority over the restless masses of humanity, even now is rising to power and position. We do not know how he does it, just that somehow his power is always breaking through the barrier of the abyss, and is even now having a destructive impact on humanity. The Spirit of God confirms this in that he tells us that the spirit of the man we call the Antichrist, that spirit being a reference to the beast, of which we have heard is coming, we're told that he now is already in the world. The beast's influence is already being felt in the world. From the execution of Christians in the days of the Roman Empire to the torture of believers throughout the 21st century in China, Indonesia, Africa, and the Middle East, and so on, the beast has covered the world with the blood of the saints. Hence, he is imaged as the scarlet beast. Blasphemous names. And I saw a woman that chose to now be sitting on a scarlet beast, now being full of blasphemous names. We previously addressed this image of the blasphemous names in Revelation chapter 13, verse 1, as this is one of the prominent features associated with the beast that is now arising from the sea. Specifically, these blasphemous names were inscribed on its 7 heads. To ensure we don't miss the potency of this image, let's review what it all means. The association of the 7 heads of the beast with blasphemous names refers to the misuse or the prostitution of God's name, Yahweh, in all its compound forms by the 7 spiritual princes that comprise the beast's inner circle of leadership, formerly the Dragon's Strategic Council. With reference to the 7 heads, we know this image is a compound image of the beast and his kingdom. They are in effect one. This imagery is intended to connect the dots between the beast and the great harlot, this woman who rides the beast. She is the spirit who embodies apostate religion and who is ridden across every world empire upon the 7 heads, upon which are inscribed these blasphemous names. The names which the beast blasphemously ascribes to himself are the very names of Yahweh. Yahweh Ra, Yahweh who is our shepherd. Yahweh Jireh, Yahweh who is our provider. Yahweh Rapha, Yahweh who is our healer. Yahweh Nisi, Yahweh who is our banner, our covering. Yahweh Mekodeshkim, Yahweh who is our sanctification, the one who sets us apart. Yahweh Sidkenu, Yahweh who is our righteousness. Yahweh Shalom, Yahweh who is our peace. Yahweh Shema, Yahweh who is there. Yahweh Sabaoth, Yahweh who is over the hosts of heaven. Yahweh Yasha, Yahweh who saves. There's a symbiotic relationship between apostate religion, specifically the religion of Christianity, and the inner council of demonic leadership which leads the kingdom and nations of this world. Though apostate religion is fronted by the great harlot, her platform of authority comes directly from these 7 kings, as they use her to present to the world many other Jesuses and many other means of salvation that bear in one way, shape, or form aspects of the great name of Yahweh. Thus, this image of the kingdom of the beast with blasphemous names on its 7 heads gives us the certainty that when the beast takes over the kingdom that has been prepared for him, he too will claim that he is Yahweh, that he is God. In his prior manifestations to the world, he claimed to be the god Chemosh, and he demanded to be worshipped. But then he was exiled by God to the abyss. And to our shock and dismay, even now he claims that he is the Christ, the Messiah, the one who bears the mortal wound and now lives. And even now he is worshipped as God within the religion of Christianity. His image, which the false prophet set up within the sanctuary of God, amongst the chosen of God, speaks. And those who hear his words have created a version of Christianity that fits their construct according to the so-called truth that they have heard and understand. Again, that is why there are over 45,000 denominations of Christianity, all claiming to know the truth. Via the 7 heads, the beast claims that he is the ultimate savior, saving the world from the wrath of the Lamb and from the plagues brought about by the bondservants of Christ. He takes the names that belong to Yahweh and Yahweh alone and appropriates them for himself and uses them for his own unholy and blasphemous purposes. Sadly, so many are already following the beast, believing he is the Christ. Jesus alluded to this when he said, "I've come in my Father's name, and you do not now receive me. If another comes in his own name, albeit blasphemous names, you will in the future choose to receive him." In preparation for his release and presentation to those in the unseen realms, he is even now exercising his authority from within the sanctuary of God, in and amongst the chosen priests of Yahweh, presenting himself as the risen Lord. And he already has masses following him and worshiping him and serving him, all in Jesus' name. In fact, there is not a name of God that he has not already blasphemously adopted for himself and then twisted by adding just a little bit of poison, just a little bit of law. Be warned and do not be deceived. As for this poison, any system of worship that in any way, shape, or form combines what God does for us, grace, with what we can do for God and for others, the work of our hands, has been inspired by this false Messiah. Remember, the design point of Galatians 2:20 is built around what God does in and through our lives, as we are willing to let him put our flesh to death, allowing him to live in and through our bodies, such that he, Jesus, fulfills the will of the Father, the deeds of the Father, through our bodies, as and when the Father desires. No matter how subtle or blatant any Christian instruction that incorporates what God does for us, grace, with what we must do to be pleasing and acceptable to God, other than just letting the Spirit of God cause us to now be willing to believe and to now be believing that Jesus is our I am, has been inspired by this false Messiah who bears blasphemous names. We may have become so numb to the things that we have been taught in Christianity, which require our conformance, that we cannot even see the difference between grace and what we have been told God wants from us, such as to be holy Christians, to stop sinning, to reach out to the lost, to give, to serve, etc. The beast has built his various forms of religion on a foundation of legalism. What we must do, a legalism that has many faces, but is commonly evidenced by shame, guilt, duty, judgment, condemnation, elitism, honoring those who are better at following the rules or who can feign it better, and ultimately division. Perhaps the beast's greatest accomplishment is division amongst those who should be united. 7 heads and 10 horns. And I saw a woman that chose to now be sitting on a scarlet beast, now having 7 heads and 10 horns. In Revelation 17, 9 through 14, we will get into detail about these 7 heads and 10 horns. But for now, just hold on to the idea that these images represent various spiritual authorities, with heads being code for leadership, and horns being code for instrumentalities of power and strength, purpose to both defend and to attack. Let us keep in mind that this image of the scarlet beast is a composite featuring both the demonic spirit, whose name is destruction, and its kingdom. They are imaged as one and the same, a king and his kingdom. Let us also take note of the fact that it is rendered in the present tense and as a participle. The beast is imaged as now having 7 heads and 10 horns. This is a picture of a spiritual reality that existed back in John's day and still exists in this conglomeration or confederacy even today. What this means is that this image of the kingdom of the beast, which was inherited from Satan, is not something that is reserved for the end times. But it is here and active even now, operating within the spiritual realms. Let's stop here, and in our next podcast, we will pick up with the 7 heads and 10 horns. I'm glad you tuned in and have been ready to listen. To get a free download of the full written transcript with all the scripture references footnoted, please go to threshermediagroup.com. That is THRESHER mediagroup.com. This is Steve with Thresher Media Group. When you're ready to listen, tune in.